Hoi hoi, it's louisity again, and for this rereading vlog, I'm going to reread The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho. Hoorah! So I found out that Mark Lee from NCT recently read this, and I thought that this is going to be the perfect time for me to reread it. I also have been wanting to reread this. I included this in my reread pile, the second reread pile. I'm going to be putting down the link to that video. So I've been wanting to reread this, and finally, Mark Lee gave me the sign. So I guess this is the moment for me to reread it. So let's begin. Okay, so I have to make a reading update because currently we do not have power at home, and that would mean that I would need to maximize reading The Alchemist until, the light or sun sets, because if darkness comes, I won't be able to read it. Okay, so far I don't think I'm vibing with the merchant's daughter. There's something about her that she needs to know better, at least based on what I've read so far. And I like the fact in page 16 that something struck me or made me contemplate about, when we deal with people, when people started getting our trust, they start, telling us to be a certain way. I guess that's kind of a thing that happens, when you start getting to know someone, and then because you feel like you already have earned their trust, and if differences arise, you start telling them a certain way for them to be better. And so far the story goes, Santiago met two people, a gypsy and an old man, telling about a treasure, and the gypsy's asking for 1/10 of the treasure once Santiago finds it, and then also the old man asks for 1/10 of his sheep, which Santiago was contemplating about. And I like about the conversation between Santiago and the old man about the legendary one, and then comparing it to also rather, I should say, the old man made some sort of comparison between a baker and a shepherd, and how one is being chosen by the other. So I guess that's why people leans towards being a baker rather than being a shepherd, because of, like, let's say, the perks of being a baker and how people see the baker as a need. And that's kind of like what happens in life. Sometimes we may want to do something, but we choose another path. But I guess it's because we have a tendency to want something else other than something that we want to do. It's just something that is very contemplative, and I'll see how the succeeding parts of Santiago's journey to Africa is going to happen. So catch you folks later. Whoa. Okay, so another rereading update. Now our electricity is back, and I was able to finish the first part of The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho. Now here are the things that struck me. Now, first of all, there was a part where they mentioned about be careful of promising something that you don't even have yet. And that reminded me of a principle. It is in Latin, something that I encountered when I was taking my law classes, when I was taking up legal management, is that Nemod dat kuod non habet. It means you cannot give what you don't have. So I think that's very important in life. You really have to embody something in order for you to start providing that to other people. And we also get to see the scene where the boy, which we believe is Santiago, he gets to meet a stranger who promised who will help him get to the pyramids in Egypt. And what happened was that, Santiago gave him money because this young person, asked for money in exchange for accompanying Santiago to be able to reach the pyramids for the treasure. And suddenly this person in the middle of nowhere disappeared, and it kind of made me think about sometimes in life we get to encounter people that perhaps for a certain period of time they can be helpful, or they will try to tell us that they will help us, but in the middle or out of nowhere they'll just be gone. So sad reality, I know. And then also the chapter ends where Santiago gets to meet a crystal merchant, and Santiago is trying to convince the merchant to work all the way just so that he can earn money and being able to head to the pyramids. But of course, the merchant said that, even working for a year or even for a very long period of time, it won't be enough for him to earn that money that he would need to go to the pyramids. Of course, the distance is very long. But yeah, Santiago still said that he's going to work. At least he needs money to buy sheep. And I'm very interested about how this journey is going to go. I mean, already reread it, and I kind of have a little bit of an idea about how this is going to end. But I feel that the thing about rereading books is that you feel like there is something that will unfold, something that, so far, most of my rereading experience would involve me unfolding something that would make an impact that you have never thought of when the first time you read something. So that is something that I'm looking forward. I'm looking forward for more mind-boggling, or something that will stir thoughts, will make me contemplate. I love it about books. So I'll catch folks later. Whoa. Okay, so another reading update. Now, there was this thought that struck me as usual. This book is just going to make you contemplate about things. Now, there was this part where, Santiago, he was working with the merchant who sells tea, placed in crystal glasses. And I like what he said about, the merchant was saying that he has aspirations going to Mecca, but he just wants to keep it as a dream and keep it in mind. There were two things that made me think about it, and I think that kind of something that makes sense in life. One of which is, I think this is more common, where we are afraid that once we get to that dream, then we are still not satisfied, or we would feel pain, or it's just something that apparently isn't going to work. And that was something that the merchant saw with his friends when they already realized their dream. And also, another thing about that actually struck me was the part where he said, like, he feels like he still has a sense of living if it is still a dream, and then like once it already happens, then like what's else, like what's more to life. And I think sometimes that's happening in life, where sometimes you think like, how come we're not getting there yet? Maybe it's because the more that the dream still exists, the more that we sort of still want to strive in life and to still keep on moving and doing meaningful things. So yeah, and I'm already in the part where I think Santiago is with the Englishman and they're on their way to the pyramids. It's interesting how they mentioned like he is 2 hours away. I'm thinking that, has he traveled that far? Because Tangier, Morocco is really far from the pyramids in Egypt. It's like so well, that's what the narrative said. So we'll see how this journey goes. Okay, so far, I kind of have like the same thoughts with a boy about, what I got from the book would be that the world or everything in the world has a soul. And I know that that disappointed the Englishman, but that's also what I thought. Maybe I just kind of like think like the dude. And that statement like struck me because I remember one of our or actually our philosophy teacher back in high school told us about, energy is the key nature to the soul, where energy is something immaterial, but it exists. I mean, it doesn't, something that you can't see, but it exists. So that just made me think about that. And they're already in the part where they reached an oasis. And I guess there was this part again about like how things are different and how, I think the reasons why things are different because one is like you can appreciate one after seeing all of the other, if that makes any sense. So, yeah. Okay, so interestingly, I feel the Maslow's hierarchy of needs vibe here because when Santiago met Fatima, he started realizing about love. And honestly, for me, I think that Fatima would be a better woman for Santiago than that merchant's daughter, I should say. And you can really tell at first he is in search of a treasure, I guess, for him to satisfy his physiological needs and just, be satisfied with life on a surface level. And then he gets to discover more about love, even the universal language of love. Basically, even if we speak different languages, but one thing that kind of unites us people is, what they call the language of love. So, yeah. And right now, it seems like Santiago's in a battle, so let's watch out what's going to happen. So I'm pretty much excited for tonight's first ever live show of BLouRay Book Club. Now we're going to be talking about Truly Devious by Maureen Johnson, which is the book of the month for October 2020. And going back to The Alchemist, now it's interesting because I think that we hear this a lot, that if the people around us really love us, they're going to support us and understand whatever goal or dreams or aspirations that we have, and that even if it involves sacrifices, like for example, like being without them, they would still, trust you and believe in you and be there to support you. And after one person pursues their dream, they can go back to, and if their loved one really believes that it supports them, they would be there waiting. So that's kind of like the situation between Santiago and Fatima. So we all know that Santiago already went with the Alchemist. Okay, so yep, the Alchemist was already found, and now they're talking about like how it becomes harder and harder. I mean, there's already a test about continuing having the life in the desert, and how sometimes even you're reaching your goal already, or you're quite near already, you're getting into the right direction at times, because it gets harder and harder. You no longer have that so-called beginner's luck. You tend to like give up, but I guess that's the thing, in life. When you are actually getting to your goal, it gets harder and harder. There are a lot more things that one is going to hurdle, and that's kind of like, I'm also thinking about that with the things that I also want to achieve in life. I mean, honestly, I do want to be, of course, aspire to be a successful booktuber, and it contemplated me about things about sacrifices, and it doesn't necessarily get easier every day. It actually gets harder. But yeah, it just made me ponder about my goals and the other things that I want to do in life. So I just finished my live stream for Bluray Book Club. Now Ray and I really had an enjoyable discussion of Truly Devious by Maureen Johnson, and hopefully, by tomorrow I can finish rereading The Alchemist. So catch folks later. Okay, y'all, so I just finished rereading The Alchemist, and I'm gonna be synthesizing my thoughts about it in the next clip. So, okay, so as I mentioned, I just finished The Alchemist a few minutes ago, and I'm gonna be sharing my thoughts in the next clip, which is, of course, this clip. Now, towards the end of the book, I think that the book really focused on that top pyramid of the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, which is purpose and self-actualization. You can see like all the elements, or all the creations of this planet were figuring out like what their purpose was when they were having conversations with Santiago. And it also kind of made me think about relevance, because it kind of compared to certain situations, like lead may be useful for a time, but then lead needs to be turned into gold to kind of not only to reinvent and innovate, but is also to have another meaning and to have another purpose. So it kind of like makes you think in life that maybe in terms of like change and the roles that you are being predicted upon in this planet, like it's kind of like what was mentioned in the book about lead being into gold. Lead at the time, lead is being useful, gold is being is now it's being needed. And maybe at certain times, maybe as humans, that may happen. And although it just made me contemplate about also kind of like at first about how we all have our own functions in this world. So it's very interesting. And the treasure, it's like it's like he knew it. Like he knew now where it was after traveling up, like probably 100, no, not even 100. I think, well, that's another statement. I'd say like thousands of miles. And it's kind of like it made me think, the ending made me think about how throughout life, probably like the treasure or the legend that we are looking for is right in front of us, but it's kind of like we need to go through certain steps, certain adventures, certain situations in life in order for us to realize what it is. You have to, like in the story, we all know that Santiago went through a lot of journey. He discovered a lot. He encountered, being, or rather, I should say, something was stolen from him. He had to give up certain things. And, interestingly, I don't think I might have skipped reading the epilogue. Yeah, I mean, I probably like did not recall the epilogue when I first read The Alchemist, but that's just like the interesting thing about life, I guess. Maybe before you reach the end point, before you reach that goal or that sole purpose that you have, you need to go through different, different adventures, and it may include struggles like what Santiago actually faced throughout the story. Every day in life I kind of like think about that. Probably like how does that apply or affect in my life? A very contemplative one. And I have to say that this book has an intricate way of writing. I mean, Paulo Coelho has an intricate way of writing, throughout his books. And in terms of the overall experience, I think there are a lot of insights that you can pick out. If not insights, it can make you contemplate about certain things. This is a book where you would need to take time in order for you to fully immerse yourself in the narrative, in order for you to kind of like contemplate about certain things and to fully grasp, I think, unless if probably you may have a different kind of situation. But I guess for me, in my reading experience, I would say that this isn't something that you can just like breeze through. But yeah, I think the intricacy, there may be like a bit of disconnects, honestly, for me. Maybe it's because that's just the way that the narrative goes to me at times, but I would still say that there are a lot of insights that you can pick out or contemplate. So I'm going to have to give The Alchemist for this reread 4.5 out of 5 stars. Feel free to comment down below any of your thoughts about The Alchemist, or if you have any plans of reading or rereading The Alchemist. So yep, I guess that's about it for this video. Now, I really appreciate Mark Lee for reading The Alchemist. So thank you super much, Mark Lee of NCT. And if you've made it this far since we've mentioned Mark Lee, feel free to put in any musical note emoji if you've made it this far. So I guess that's about it. If you folks like this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up. Also, click that subscribe button and hit that little bell icon somewhere down there to keep yourselves posted about my videos. And I'll also be putting down links and handles of my social media accounts, so feel free to check me out and follow me there as well. As always, thank you super much for watching. Let us keep in our minds and our hearts to be loving and kind, and unleash the reader in you. Bye all!